Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching. Today, we are so excited. Nelly and I, we're so excited again to start another interesting episode or interesting um, live show, which is all about navigating single parenting. Like we know, parenting is a blessing. To be a parent is a massive blessing. But again, let us be honest, sometimes the job of parenting can be so exhausting. We've got the endless duties, to do list, we've got the sleepless night, we've got the constant emotional load, we've got many things that keep us stagnant and things that just keep us either running like headless chicken. And sometimes it can be so exhausting. And here today, we're talking about how to deal with burnout. It's a very, very interesting topic, and I'm so much looking forward to us learning and also hearing from what Nelly, because I know Nelly has got a lot in her back to take out and give it to us today. So my name is Peggy Barre. I am a survivor empowerment coach, domestic abuse practitioner, and also the founder of Arise and Thrive Academy. And today I am with Nelly. And Nelly, can you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Hello, everyone. I am Nelly Kwasumi, a parent, a mother, a single parent, a transformational life coach, a social worker, a founder. Just wanting to support people based on my journey and still learning because the journey is never ending. So, Peggy and myself are happy to be here with another series so that we can share and learn. But this time is around single parenting and burnout. Are you able to recognize parenting burnout? So, join us today. Let's talk about it and share because your experiences, my experiences, Peggy's experiences are very different. Sometimes we struggle without realizing that it is actually parenting burnout. So we will explore this and please share with us your experiences as well.
Absolutely. And just talking about it, when before we went live, Nelly, we were just talking about the rate at which sometimes we get so tired, we are exhausted, we don't know to differentiate whether is it tiredness or is it burnout or is it something to do with health or what. I don't know if I've lost Nelly there. Okay, so I don't know, I think, Nelly, are you there? Hello, Nelly. Nelly.
Hello. Yes, I'm
Yeah,
back. Sorry, there was a technical issue here.
yeah, I can't see
Can you
you.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but I cannot see you.
I'm back. Probably just give me a minute.
Oh, yes, you're back. Yay, you're back.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so we're just talking about what is burnout because Nelly, I think when I speak to so many parents within the communities, one thing that we don't, in fact, I would even go further to say many parents because sometimes, even with me, there were times that I could not even distinguish whether I am burnout or whether it's just normal tiredness or just whether it's just me, have I not slept enough. So I think it's very, very important to first of all really define what is burnout, especially parenting burnout. Like that kids are screaming in your ear every day, and what is it? What is parenting burnout, or what is burnout as a whole, Nelly?
So I would say burnout is that exhaustion
Mhm.
that you experience even after having enough sleep. When we say enough sleep, you can sleep for the recommended hours is 8 hours. Sometimes you can sleep for that 8 hours, even 10, 12 hours, but you get really, really exhausted.
Mhm.
So it's not just mental exhaustion, there's also physical exhaustion. And there are
Mhm.
different symptoms that you can identify. So it's good to know what symptom to watch out for. So basically, burnout is that extreme exhaustion, and you don't find things pleasurable the way you used to enjoy even simple things. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll look at the symptoms that you need to look out for you to
Mm-hmm.
for it to suggest that probably you are experiencing parenting burnout.
Yeah. That is so true, Nelly. And we were just talking about some of the triggers. What are some of the triggers that we may experience? We talk about like that constant fatigue, like you've just mentioned. That moment where you're always tired, no matter how well you sleep. Nelly, there was a period in my life where no matter how long I sleep, I wake up in the morning, first thing I am tired. And that is where I started questioning myself. We're talking previously about how to look after our health. We're going to talk about that. But I started asking myself, I said, but this is not right. I've just slept. I've slept like 6, 7 hours or 8 hours, But then I get up in the morning, you just feel like, I don't just feel like doing anything. So it's that constant fatigue where you feel constant fatigue. And we know that talking about myself, I know that when I felt that way, Nelly, you can imagine your attitude around your kids or imagine your attitude around people, around you. So we talked about some of the signs is that constant fatigue. I talk about irritability or short patience. Some people will call it short tempered, when maybe a child can just walk up and say, "Hey, mommy, I want, mommy, what?" And then you just like, like just burst into like a lion. And you're wondering what is happening. It is that trigger of burnout. It's showing that your body is tired, you're exhausted. And we talk about loss of parenting joy. I've spoken to so many women that they talk about, they feel like, what? They just, some of them will make mention like, Peggy, I just feel like just disappearing for one day. And that is the statement that they are telling you that, what? I am tired of these children, or I'm tired of parenting. I just want to disappear for one day or so. And then again, there's some triggers where we talk about feeling disconnected from your children. I don't know, Nelly, do you want to talk about that disconnection from children?
Yeah, I think the disconnection from children, deep within you, you know fully well, whether you're a father or a mother, you know fully well that you love your children so dearly. But
Mhm.
because of the many things that are going on in your head, the exhaustion, the burnout, or you approaching burnout, like Peggy said, you get so irritable and you feel disconnected with your children, in the sense that a child can come to you to say, "Mom, Dad, can I have just something, even say a glass of water?" And because you
Mhm.
have so much in your head, you just snap, because there's no patience. You
Yeah.
lack that patience. You are easily irritable. So
Mhm.
it's not that you did it on purpose, and you reacting that way might not realize that you are reacting that way. But
Mhm.
then the child might come to you and say, "Dad or Mom, the way you did this, I didn't like it. Maybe
Yeah.
it made me to be frightened." But you will be surprised. And this is what I hear from parents, that
Yeah.
I just did this and the child exaggerated it.
Mhm.
At that moment, because the parent is feeling the way they are feeling, they don't realize that the reaction is as intense as the way the child is describing.
Mhm.
So that is how you disconnect with your child. And even a child might come, I mean, children like to play. But then if a child goes to the parent to play and the parent is exhausted, the parent might say, "This child is just looking for trouble."
Yeah.
Whereas the child just wants to play. The child wants that attention. The child is just, that's a way that a child wants to show their love for you. But
Mhm.
because you are exhausted, you send the child away, and the child goes thinking that, "Oh, probably my mom or my dad doesn't love me anymore." Because of it, because they are children, that's just the way they think. So
Yeah.
then they might start distancing themselves from you. probably when you are coming back home, they are maybe getting into their bedrooms or just being busy, because to them, that's a way of avoiding to speak to you, because they fear that they might get rejected or you might be angry with them and things like that. So those are some of the symptoms that you can notice that you are disconnecting from your children. So just watch out from what the children say, because yes, we know humans, especially children, they have the capability to manipulate, but listen to your children, listen to your spouse, to your partner, to your wife, husband, because they are trying to express to you what they feel your behavior is. So don't just reject it. Listen to what they've got to say.
That is so true, Nelly. That is so true. And I think that sometimes we get to a point where we are so accustomed with the behavior, we're so accustomed with the attitude that we tend not to see how it's affecting those around us. And we tend not to even listen to what they're telling us. Because again, sometimes we're very defensive, like there's nothing wrong with me, there's nothing wrong with me. Or sometimes, trust me, sometimes I'm guilty of this. If you people could just keep the kitchen clean, I will not be that angry. Please forgive me. I am used to that. If you people could just leave the sink clean, you won't hear me shout. But then, even when they keep the kitchen clean or the sink clean, there'll be another thing that you find another thing to shout on. You get me? You get me? So this is where you start beginning to, we need to take that step back and really have some self-reflection that, but hang on, what I'm doing, is it right? Is it something that I can put a stop of it, or is something triggering the way I am behaving? Because if we don't take that self-reflection, it become a norm. And sometimes you even see your kids, maybe as you're entering the house, everybody's disappearing in their room because they're just thinking, oh my God, I don't want mom to come and shout again, I don't want dad to come and shout in my ears again, I better just go and lock myself in my room. So again, these are just some of the signs, again, to spot that there is something not right. That every time we come in, kids disappear in their bedroom. For us, sometimes from African point of view, we said maybe it's respect. Oh, they're respecting me, that's why. No, they're not respecting you. It's not about just respect. Maybe they're running away from something. So again, that is itself a signal or a trigger, Nelly, to say that there is something that is not right. I don't know if you want to say something on that.
Yeah, you said something there, and I was just nodding because just this afternoon I had a conversation with someone, with a young adult, who was talking about the way they are being treated at home by their parents. This young person is trying to express themselves to their parent, but unfortunately, the parent is like, you need to listen to me. You need to do what I ask you to do. You need to respect me. But
Mm,
this young person is just trying for the parents to
mm,
hear them out.
yeah.
And they have got to the point where they are feeling really frustrated,
Yeah.
and they are realizing that this behavior has not started just now. But then
Mm,
the mother is defending the father to say that that is how the father has always been. So that is
mm,
where I want to come in. Just because we have been behaving in a particular way for all our lives doesn't mean that is right.
mm,
Awareness is very, very important. So if one person, two persons, three, they tell you something similar,
yeah.
take a step back, because it's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of people, especially African parents, we become so defensive and say, no, 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 that's how I've always behaved, and I always behave like that. But then,
Mm,
what is the impact of that behavior on your children, your family, your friends, your relationships, even at work. So it is to take a step back to question, like what I say is start with why. And I copied that from Simon Sinek because
Yeah.
he does that. He says start with or begin with why. And
Yeah.
when you ask yourself why to get to the bottom of it, your whole perception about yourself will change because the behaviors that you are displaying, you were not born with those behaviors. You
Mm-hmm.
learned the behaviors.
Yes.
You learn the behaviors and you learn them from a very young age. You observe your parents, the way they behave. Because if you look at it, you see that growing up, there might be some behaviors of your parents that you didn't like. Probably you were being punished for little things, or let me just end there, that you were being punished for little things that you were not happy about.
Yeah.
And you even said, I didn't like what my parents did. But then you are behaving to your children exactly the same. And I hear people say, oh, this is what my mom used to do. And I cannot believe I am doing that to my children. But anyway, that's how I was brought up. That's how I was parented. I'll just
Yeah.
pass it on to my children. Please, African parents, let's take a step back. Think of the impact your parents' behavior had on you.
Mm-hmm.
Reflect how you felt.
Yeah.
And then now you are displaying the same behavior that you did not like onto your children. That is not improving your relationship. And the
Yeah.
worst thing, which I have noticed because I am working with young people, young adults as well, is that there's um there's the after effect of
Yeah.
those kind of parenting because children develop, say, children can be very submissive to their parents and
Mm-hmm.
very respectful, and the parents will be boastful that their child does whatever they ask. But then on the other side, when the child is not with the parents, that child is
Mm.
very rebellious
Right.
because when they are with their parents, they feel conflicted. But because they know those are their parents provide everything for them, they know they must respect their parents. They just submit and do whatever their parents ask of. But then when they are on their own or when they are with their friends, when there's no parental influence,
Mm-hmm.
the children run riot because they have no control at that time. And unfortunately, when children don't develop a sense of themselves,
Yeah.
they're easily influenced by their peers. But not only that, children who are very submissive to their parents and they don't have their own independence or have their own voice,
Mm-hmm.
they get to a stage where they become rebellious against their parents because they feel that inner conflict.
Yeah.
Some children end up hurting themselves, and they hurt themselves in the form of addiction, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's promiscuity, whether it's self-harm, suicide, whatever, because
Mm.
they adopt those behaviors as coping strategies to numb the emotional pain.
Mm.
But that is why parents need to give their children a voice. When a parent gives a children their voice, it doesn't mean that the parents are not respecting their child. Instead, they are encouraging and promoting the child to stand up for themselves when when they are in a difficult situation. Because if a child goes to school and they are being bullied in school, and they come after to tell the parents that they were being bullied in school, that's after. But if the child can stand on their own and said, listen, what you're telling me, I don't agree with it, and don't you
Mm.
ever, that's a child that will feel very prideful of themselves.
Mhm.
And when the child is not able to stand up for themselves and they come home, okay, imagine as a parent, you are already getting to burnout because you are constantly exhausted.
Yeah.
A child comes again, and okay, let's say you have a couple of children, and child one comes and said, Mom, Dad, in school, this will happen, that happened, just complaining, complaining, complaining. The next child comes, the same. Imagine you are adding what you are already experiencing plus what the
Mhm.
children are experiencing. You add
Mhm.
that to yourself, which multiplies the exhaustion that you are
Yeah.
experiencing because it is mental. We we can have physical symptoms, but a lot of this burnout stems from mental point
Yeah.
of view.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's just like how can you put it? It's like a hole where you just keep pouring water, pouring, keep pouring, keep pouring, So to what extent can it take? It gets to a point where you cannot take it anymore. And when you were talking there, Nelly, that is so true. When we don't give our children the opportunity to be independent, we're not talking about there. I know there's some certain age where, yes, children are children. As parents, we don't have any choice than to make sure we make every decision around them, make sure but I have watched and I have seen so many times parents will be so careful to a point where kids get to 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, even 16. The parents feel like we don't want to let go the grip. We don't want to loosen our grip as parents. We feel like we must take them anywhere they're going. If they're going anywhere, we need to drop them, pick them up. We don't allow them to even go to the corner shop to maybe buy some simple things. When we were growing, we'll talk about that another time. When we were growing as young as what, they were sending us miles and miles to trek. But again, we cannot compare that our own era with this era, because we know about safety. There is a massive thing about safety this time. So you cannot say I'll just send my child because maybe that's how my parents used to send me to trek. No. Again, it gets to a point where we cannot even allow our children to maybe just catch the bus to go from point A to B. So when we don't let our children at least give them that small task or those small chores or those small responsibility, or promoting them to be independent, then that is us trying to carry every burden on our shoulders. And Nelly, whether we like it or not, we will burn out. We will get tired, because you're just talking about a single parent that has got 3 children. You pick up one, you go drop, and all of these children have got school activities, or they need to go to school, and maybe they've got extracurricular activity. You go and drop A at football, you go and drop B at swimming lessons, you go and drop C at, as a parent, especially single parent, how can you literally do all of this without actually breaking down? There is no way. Even if you are a super mama or super daddy, you get to a point where you will literally break down. So, in a nutshell, Nelly, what I'm getting is that we need to ensure as parents that we are confident in ourselves and confident in the way we're raising our children. We're raising our children to be confident young men and women, that they can be confident enough to stand up for themselves. They can be confident enough to navigate themselves around, especially if they've reached the stage where they can catch the bus, go to school, and do so safely. And again, this is when nearly we talk about the communication, because if you build that confidence and communication with your child, you yourself as a parent, you stay back and be rest assured that no, my son knows their boundary. My son knows how to say yes or no. My son or daughter knows what is wrong or what is right. They know to stand up for themselves. They know to communicate or call me if there is anything that they're not sure of. So it's that communication and that confidence in their safety. So when we as parents build that in them, then we can step back a little bit, isn't it, Nelly? Step back to say, okay, that little, maybe that 30 minutes that you would have taken to run around to do something for that child, if that child can confidently do it safely, that is 30 minutes for you to rest as a parent. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know whether I want to add something on that, Nelly, and then we move to the causes and triggers.
Yeah, I just want to add around the independence. So, promoting a child's independence doesn't start when the child is 8, 9, 10. It
Mm.
starts when the child is small. And
Ah.
say, if, say, a child is 1.5 years old and you want to wear them, you want to wear them a dress, you ask, do you want this pink or do you want this green? Already
Mm.
you are giving the child the opportunity to be themselves because they can make a choice. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, that is not the case with the African parents because they say, this is what you are wearing, full stop. And it goes down to the communication because if you tell a child, do this, without explaining why, well, they'll do it. But then after some time, they start questioning their mind. And I know this is the reason why, like on social media, you hear of this is my African mom, this is my African dad, because they just say, do this, full stop.
Yeah.
No, a sentence doesn't end like that. Why do you want? And the saddest thing is when children try to ask, why should I do it that particular way? Parents will say, you have insulted me.
Yeah.
So
Because I
how?
say so. Another response is because I say so.
Yeah, yeah. So it goes down to communication because if we if we want, okay, I would say with myself because I know I've got into trouble even at work at my age because I have asked my manager, why do you want me to do it that way? And then one of the managers that I asked, she was like, no one has ever asked me that question. Just do it. I'm like, I'm just different. I don't know how to just do it without understanding why I need to do it in the first place.
Yeah.
And she made a report to senior management to say that I don't want to do my job. so, so that's just the same. And for me, I have learned that
Yeah.
if I want someone to do something, I will explain, please do this for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Because if someone tells me just to do something, I have so many questions that I might end up not doing what that person asks of me because I have not understood why I need to do it. So I think communication, I mean, in previous sessions that we've done, that I have
Mhm.
done, I have
Mhm.
talked about, I've insisted around
Yeah.
communication
Yeah.
because the way African parents communicate with their children, we need to improve that because sometimes parents say, because you have come out, you are now in the UK, you think that you are white. That's not the
Mm.
mentality. Because even back in African countries now, children are retaliating
Yeah.
because they are not just some kind of object that parents will say, do this, don't do this, da 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 da. And then
Absolutely.
now you have a lot of mental and emotional related issues that are coming up that previously they were seen as a curse.
Yeah.
A lot of that is coming up, and most of those things can be prevented if parents stoop down, not low, stoop down or take a step back to review their communication method. Because all of this contributes, I know I've gone a step further, all of
Mhm.
these are triggers to burnout.
It is. It is, Nelly. And the thing is that, unlike before, you used to hear people say that I would take my child and go and leave them in Africa so that they can be trained properly in Africa. And then when they are adult, I will bring them back either to the Western world or the UK. You used to hear a lot of that. I will take you, I will deport you, or I will take you to so and so and so. But to be honest with you, when I went to my country, Cameroon, you will see things, something like drug, Nelly. It was never told of that. Say back in Africa, you see the rate of drug, especially our teenagers being into drug as much as it is here in this UK. And so, what does that tells you? That also tells you that the same thing that is more or less driving children back in this country is beginning to drive children back at home into finding, because what is drug? They is peer pressure first, either through peer pressure where they get into it, and then when they get into it, they find that they are using it as a coping mechanism, as an escape from the pain, or escape from whatever thing they are going through in their homes, or among their family and all of that. So it becomes a coping mechanism for these children. So what does that tell us? That tells us that there is something underlying that is not working in terms of the foundation, that is not working for parents and children. And then when these children, now it's like a cycle. Okay, when these children start taking the drug as a coping mechanism, and the stress, who does the stress come to? It comes back to the parent. Today you hear that, oh, their child has been picked up here. The stress is on you. Today the neighbors are complaining, oh, your child stole my this, the stress is on you. So these are all things that amount to burnout. And in as much as we can suppress it, sometimes we may suppress it thinking that, what, we're just going to deal with it. But accumulated burnout leads to something more dangerous. It leads to other diseases, which we're going to talk about. So it's about making sure, what is it as a parent that you can start to manage? I'll put it this way, Nelly, when you give birth to that child from that very young age, you can start telling yourself that, what, I don't want to go through burnout. So as young as this child can be, even 1 day old as this child can be, I'm going to start making sure that I train up this child in a way that this child will grow up and be confident, be independent in their way, so that also I can find some rest. I think if we start having that mindset, even as parents, we will know how we start training. We'll not leave them till last minute before we won't start banging them to listen. They're not going to listen. They're not going
Yeah,
to listen.
I think it starts from a young age, because I was reading through a research, and it says one research from, I think it's Harvard University, or anyway, but it's around child development. And it says
Mm,
that love, consistent love, and nurturing environment is
mm,
very, very important for a child's growth and development. So, as parents, it will be hard to give adequate love to your children
mhm.
when you are struggling to love yourself.
Yeah,
You might think that you are giving the best, but unfortunately, you are not.
absolutely.
Along the line, after having a child, many other things might come up
Yeah.
that might cause you to struggle, even with yourself. You struggle with your identity as a mother, as a father, because of
Mm,
whatever you've experienced. It will
yeah.
impact how you relate with your child.
Yeah.
So, which is why we say, think about yourself. It's not being selfish, because
Yeah.
you cannot give what you don't have.
Absolutely.
And there are things that you need to put in place to ensure your health and safety, and that of your children, your family.
So
Most of
true.
the times, we get social pressure that, oh, this family member or this person, this friend is doing this, I need to do it as well.
Mm,
There's an old saying that, cut your coat according to your size.
yeah.
Social pressure put that to the side because people want approval. So they
Mm-hmm.
will do things outwardly, the public self, while ignoring the private self. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, when they are at home, I always say in the wee hours of the morning or the dawn of the morning, that is when you battle with your personal self. Because at the time, it's just you alone,
Yeah.
probably on your bed, no sleep because you are thinking of this, that, and that, and that.
Absolutely.
And that adds to burnout because, okay, you go to sleep to rest, but unfortunately, you can't sleep because you have so many things going on. Probably you are coming up with strategies. How can I do this to show off? Who will I talk to get money? Who am I prepared? Which group of people should I scam today? And things like that. So that
Yeah.
you don't sleep because you want that approval, you want to boast, and all that goes to the ego. And then what impact is it having on other people around you? What impact is it having on your children?
Yeah.
So because you are there spending a lot of your time, your energy on something that is not very productive, you want to prove to others, you forget about your children because you are chasing something,
Mm-hmm.
and then you forget about the children, you forget about your partner and things like that. So there's just so much
So,
that
so
is going
many,
on. Yeah.
so many things that is causing us burnout. So we've talked about, so the first part we'll talk about, with obviously for anybody who is joining us, we've talked about what is burnout. We've talked about burnout is not just being tired. It's about emotional, mental, and physical exhaustion from prolonged stress. And we've been talking all about the things that causes stress, as parents. And we've talked about the signs of burnout, which is constant fatigue, irritability, and short tempered. We'll talk about the loss of joy in parenting. I will talk about the feeling of disconnection from your children. So these are some of the signs and symptoms that you can start feeling that this is burnout. When you start getting to a point where you're actually losing appetite in parenting, where you see immediately you see your children, you start getting angry, right? Or immediately your child comes to tell you something, you start getting angry. Then, hey, that is a signal that is burnout. You are coming, you're going through burnout, and you may need help. It's not just about, yeah, you need help, because this is something that it will push children. It can push parents to a point where you see they will commit, God forbid, they will do things that are terrible to their children, because of that burnout that they've not dealt with, or it hasn't been resolved. So I don't know, if you're a viewer, which of these signs do you notice most in your life, especially if you're a parent, right? Are there some of these signs that you noticed in your life? If there are, then please just drop them in the comment, so that we can all, kind of be interactive and kind of get to hear your own opinion about it. So Nelly, let's move to some of the causes and triggers of burnout. What causes burnout? I know we've already mentioned some of them when we were chatting, but what are some of it? I know I did jot out something like lack of support network. We've got lack of support network, overloaded schedule. Do you want to talk a little bit on that?
Okay, I think I'll go to cultural aspects before I come to the overloaded schedule. So,
Mhm.
cultural aspects in the African context, I know we have vast social network.
Yeah.
However, the support that we get from our network is very selective. Very
Yes.
selective. So if it comes to things like social gathering, you can count that a lot of your network, people in your network will show up. But
Mm,
when it comes to something like ill health, there'll
yeah.
be a selection of few. Worst of all, if it comes to something like mental ill health, there'll be, you can count the few who will make attempts. So that's why I say the network is very, very selective, but it's
Mm.
very popular when it comes to social, when it comes to festivities.
Yes.
And one thing that is linked to the cultural aspects is there are cliques within the communities.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I know you've talked about asking for help. So, if I'm struggling with something, which this is a personal experience that I share it all the time that I talk about, because sometimes when I'm talking, people are like, "Oh, probably you've just read that, you have not gone through." So, when lockdown started, I
Mm-hmm.
experienced burnout. This was not parenting burnout, but this was burnout at work, which impacted on my parenting um, abilities, because I really struggled with my mental health at the time, because sometimes in mid sentence, I'll just go blank.
Mm.
My children notice it, but being a single mother, I didn't want my children to notice that I struggle. So I'll be like, nah, it's fine. But I didn't realize that my children were talking to themselves that there's something not right with mom. I
Mm.
only noticed this sometime after. Anyway, going back to the community. So when I realized that, not even before then, when I realized that I was struggling, I approached my community, those in my community, and said, I was struggling. And at that time, I felt rejected. And that was not the first time that I felt rejected by my community. This one
Mm.
regarding the burnout, people contacted me and they said, Nelly, why do you talk about mental health? And I was like, why don't I talk about mental health? I am experiencing that. So that is how selective those within our community are. So just be
Mm-hmm.
mindful about that. So it goes back to the support you can get, because it's not necessarily that you don't have the support network. Is
Yeah.
that how supportive are those within your support network? Because most times they will show up, and you will explain and say whatever you are going through with the hope that they will support you. Mhm. But unfortunately, your story, your whatever your experience will be used as headlines for gossips.
Nelly, let me just put you there. You made a massive statement. I hope somebody could type me that statement. It is not, it is not the amount of support network that you have. It is how supportive that network is. That is a massive one because it resonates. I resonate so much with that, Nelly. So I just wanted to recap that so that I can type that because I love that. Yeah, you can crack on.
Okay, thank you. So, I can't remember what I was talking about.
So you were talking about you connecting, going to your network for support, but then they instead prejudge you. They were asking
Yeah,
you, why are you talking about mental health?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you. So, imagine how I felt. Okay, I was already struggling, and then people contacted me to say that. So I felt even worse. And with the with some of the individuals that I'm working with, that's exactly what they have shared with me that they are experiencing. Even in households, they are struggling with mental health or emotions. They have tried to speak to people within their family, but they're
Yeah.
like, oh no, you are very reactive. Oh no, it's just this white man's mentality that you are developing. Or it's because I've brought you from Africa and now you're here, you think that you cannot respect me, you cannot do what you are meant to do, and things like that. It's not only to adults who hear this, because
Mm-hmm.
adults say this even to children.
Yes.
And then it makes children or anyone who hears such talks, it doesn't help them, because they are struggling, yes, But then, if within the household, which it can be considered that the household is the first support network, but then
Yes.
if within the home, you don't even feel comfortable to talk about your experience, and worst of it, some of the clients that I've worked with, they have had a diagnosis, medical diagnosis, but then they are being ignored by
Yeah.
the parents, by those at home that are being
Mhm.
ignored. So then, where is the support?
That
So
is
for
so
me,
true.
this is why I say, when it comes to mental health, emotional well being, please don't waste, I'll say waste in quote, your time to talk to people who don't care or who do not have that knowledge, because you will feel rejected. Instead, seek for professional help where you will not be judged and you will be listened to. That will make you feel much better expressing yourself, because sometimes we just need a listening ear. The person listening might just be there to listen. And because you are talking out your experience, you free up mental space, and then
Mm.
you can now think differently. Because we have problems, yes, we have the ability to solve those problems without any external support. But unfortunately, because we don't feel that we are capable enough, we rely on other people to tell us what to do, because that's what we were told when we were growing up, that we need to listen to our parents. So it goes back to the independence. We are not promoting children's independence from a young age. So it comes back in a cycle.
Yes, it does. And that is so true, Nelly. When you were talking, two things were ringing in my head. The first one was ringing about the postnatal depression, which is something that I went through. I did not even realize that I went through it. That is another topic on its own on another day. Because all of this burnout starts from that very moment at that early stage. Now, you talked about mental health, which is a massive thing, Nelly. And again, this cultural thing aspect is so huge. I resonated a lot because when I was going through my own difficulties as a single parent, after whole my relationship broke down and I was struggling to navigate that parenting alone, as again, people whom you think that they were your friends when everything was going well, those same people that I ran to hoping that they will kind of step in to maybe just give me some comfort or maybe just give me some help or just assure me, Nelly, all these people my name became a topic of discussion for these same people. Everybody backed out. At that time, you are being seen as the bad girl. You are being seen as the bad wife. You are being seen as the bad person, right? But then this is where, as I wrote in my book, there's a whole chapter in my book that I talked about your relationship hierarchy. And I talk a lot about what are the type of friends that you have. That is the time that I read about different categories of friends. And then I begin to understand that there come a time in life where you need to find your hierarchy of people in your life. Because it's not just about saying I belong to a community. Just like you mentioned, it's about who can you count on within that community. That when there is something, I can run to this person and say, hey, brother, hey, sister, I am going through this thing. And that person will just listen to you without being judgmental. It's about being judgmental or about castigating you or about silencing you or about saying that what you're saying, what you're talking about mental health. Because in our community, mental health does not exist. Something mental health does not exist. It's just those acronyms. Oh, that thing that people are just copying from where, but it is real. It is happening. It is existing in our countries. It is existing in our town, in our cities, in our villages, in our homes. And the earlier we start to accept that it exists, then I think we will solve a lot of problem. And this whole aspect of burnout. we will be able to solve them. Jackie just said it is not the amount of support. Okay, yeah. So this is very, very important, a cultural aspect. And Nelly, that has made me to be really, really selective. I always say you can be in a community and have just one or two people that you can rely on, that you can run to. They are confident that you can run to and cry on their shoulder and they will listen to you. And we're talking about burnt out here. So even as parents, you need to find your clique of parents who can understand with you, parents who you can lean on. You know, they can support you with your parenting, you can support them with your parenting. There is something even called community parenting, where you people can support each other and talk about the challenges that you're facing among yourself, especially with your children, you know, so that at least you can bounce off each other and support each other. In that way, it takes off that stress, you know, or that trauma of going through that parenting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when you are going through a difficult situation like a parenting burnout, at that time, you feel like you are the only one going through that experience. And it is very important for you to get into a supportive community, not just
Yeah.
any community like we've talked about. Get into a supportive community. And you need to test the waters first so that you
Yes.
don't get really hurt. If you struggle to get a supportive community, there are things that you can start doing, because we know, like we've talked about earlier, that a lot of these things are mental and emotional. You can start by expressing yourself in probably writing what you are going through, because
Mm.
that is you taking out some of the much clouded information in your mind outside. In writing, you're putting it on a piece of paper, but then
Yeah.
it gives you mental space. And there are other things that you can do, that I think that that's the next thing that we will go on to.
Yes.
So yes, sometimes burnout, like we've said, is accumulation of exhaustion over time, because it might be due to perfectionism. You know that you have to do things, or things have to be done exactly this way, no change, which does not give room for flexibility.
I'm putting my hand up because I'm Mrs. Perfectionism, and that is why it's giving me my own burnout.
And sometimes it is to take a step back and look at why you, because it's a coping strategy. It's a coping strategy. And where did that come from? Because it come from somewhere. You were not born with it. It
Yeah.
was developed. It was developed. You developed that as a coping strategy. So to go to the bottom of it, that is where professionals come in. And a lot of the cases that I deal with, that is what I deal with, because I look at the underlying cause, not just the symptoms, because the perfectionism is a symptom, but that's not the root cause. So what
Yeah.
I do with my clients is I we drill down to look at the root cause. Where is that coming from?
Yeah.
So with the burnout, so coming back now to burnout, so there are some things that you can do. For instance, you can have a schedule. Whether it's schedule or schedule, I don't know, but I'm sure you know what I mean.
Hmm.
So write down, either in, you might have a calendar, or you might use your phone to write down your activities for the day. Put a reminder, because that will guide you. Sometimes I hear people say, oh, I forgot that I had to do this, I had to do that, because so many things. With your phone, we use our phones on a daily basis. So if you are waking up at 6:30, put an alarm. 6:30 you wake up. If
Hmm.
8:30 you are dropping the children off, 8:30, just for reminder, so you don't forget. And someone like me, age is playing its own part, so I forget as well. But
Hmm.
my calendar, I put everything. If I'm to make a phone call, even if it's for 5 minutes, on my calendar I put make a phone call to such and such a person, because if I
Yeah.
don't put it there, I will forget. And like
Yeah.
that, when you put constant reminders, it will really help you, because when you look at your phone, a message comes up or a reminder comes up, you say, oh, I had to do this. That way, at the end of the day, you realize that you achieve a lot of what you were meant to do for that day. But if you don't write them down and you just put everything in your head already, that's clouding your mental space. So by the end of the day, you might just feel that, oh, I have so much to do and
Yes.
I don't even know where to start. But when you
Yes.
break it down, you realize that, okay, I will start with this, I will start with that. And this even goes to house chores as well. So if you
Yes.
wake up in the morning and say, I will tidy the whole house needs to be squeaky clean. I bet you most of the time you will not even do half of it, or you might not even start it. But if you say, okay, this I'll wake up at, say you wake up in the morning, drop off the children at school, and say from 9:30 I'll start with the kitchen or the living room or the bathroom or one of the children's bedroom. Start from there. At least you have a starting point. That's a breakdown of your activities for the day. And review that. Let's say you get to midday, you have a review. What have you done already? What needs to be done? Because like that you are breaking it in chunks and you easily manage those, rather than just saying you clean the whole house or you do a spring clean the whole house today.
Yeah. Absolutely. That is so true, Nelly. So we Nelly, we're already talking about like practical strategies to overcome burnout.
Yeah.
So just to summarize the causes and triggers, just for anybody who would jump in. So we talked about the causes and triggers, first of all, of burnout. So Nelly talked about lack of support network, which is huge. And Nelly talked about community. It's not about having a network, it's about how supportive the network is. Right. We talked about overloading schedule. And Nelly has been talking about how you can break down those schedules to release that pressure from you. We've talked about perfectionism and guilt, which I put my hand up because again, that is me. I always like things to be so perfect. Even when you finish washing dishes, I'm the one that will go and pick the plate and turn it left, turn it right. Is it clean? Is it so? Those are some of the things that just because by the time you start looking at dishes, trust me, there will be something that is not right. And that will be me standing there to try and correct that thing. And that is a time that you would have taken to rest. Say again, it's about that perfectionism that we're talking about. We've talked about neglecting your personal needs as well. That is a massive one because burnout starts when we start neglecting the things that we used to love doing. If you're the person that you used to go out, you used to hang out with your friends, you used to do things, once you start not doing those things, maybe because parenting has taken a toll on you, you start to experience burnout because you are depriving yourself from that thing that gives you joy. So that is again is something that Nelly we're going to talk about because these are now strategies of start overcoming burnout, right? So again, when you start when you notice that you're neglecting the things that you used to do, the things that you used to enjoy, you're no longer doing them. Maybe that again is another sign of burnout. Or if you leave it prolonged, it might lead to burnout because you're losing that joy, that things that distress you. And then we've talked about again. So yeah, so these are some of the summary that we've talked about. And then maybe if you're listening to us, it will be good to actually write down maybe the top two burnout triggers for you. What are some of the two top burnout triggers for you? So we're gonna start talking about the practical strategies to overcome burnout, which Nelly has already talked about breaking down your schedule. We talk about micro breakdown in a day. And Nelly, just coming back to what you said, I am the type of one that I used to think I can store everything in this my coconut head. Like I will, if I get up in the morning, in my brain, I know that I need to do A, B, C, D, right to Z. And then I'm thinking that I can do it. Before I used to, I'll be able to at least, but it gets to a point where you've got work, you've got things that concerning work, you've got maybe the children to run about, you've got maybe your own personal commitment. Us that we're in African group, we're in maybe three of how many African groups you've got. So which one will you keep in your head and which one will you not keep? So I noticed that I started getting really, really irritated and very stressed because in my head, because when I think of one thing, everything starts to come. I've not done this, I've not done that. Then that is when I started really being stringent on my to-do list. I've got my small jotter. I use my phone diary a lot, but also on my study table in my room, I always write my to-do list for the day. Like, what is it that I'm going to do? And then by the time I go back in the evening, I check my to-do list. Have I done this? Have I done that? And then the ones that I've not done, I carry to the next day. But then in that way, Nelly, you said something. By the time you're reviewing it, it gives you that inner satisfaction that you're making progress, and you celebrate yourself. This is the time where I say to my women, if you can drink champagne, open a bottle of champagne and drink. For those of us that don't drink alcohol, look for something that can give you that inner satisfaction to say, you know what, well done. I did well today. Celebrate yourself. Is Give yourself a pat on the back and say, well done, you did it today. Because Nelly, to be honest, sometimes I'm never non-stop. I'm just like running, running, running. But these days, you're beginning to teach me that sit on this chair and see whether this roof will fall over your head.
I think, thank you for that. When you were talking, two things came up for me. So, as parents, I'm sure most of you watching, this will resonate with you. So,
Mhm.
and I've talked to so many parents, and they have expressed that they've experienced this. So, when you give birth to a child, your whole world is around that child.
Yes.
You forget about yourself. For instance, you go to the market or you go shopping, and you say you want, the intention when you left the house was to get something for yourself. But
Mm.
when you return, you buy so much, but none of it is for yourself.
Yeah.
So everything is just on the child. And majority of parents, they start neglecting themselves
Yes.
when they start having children. I
Mhm.
know this because I've experienced it, and majority of parents that I've spoken to, they don't even know what they like anymore because
Yes.
everything is around the child. If you ask anything about the child, they will tell you. But if you ask, say the last time they did something that they enjoyed, they can't even remember because it's gone for years and years. So, parents, if you have a child, you as an individual, your self-care is very important. Peggy talked about the self-care. Self-care is very important because
Mhm.
if you don't express self-love, what you are giving your child or what you are giving your family,
Mhm.
unfortunately, it's not genuine love,
Yeah.
because you might be doing it out of obligation or out of fear.
Yes.
But once you focus on yourself to
Mhm.
express your love, love yourself. It's not
Yeah.
being selfish. Let's say you have children and allocate about 15 or 30 minutes to
Mhm.
yourself. That could just be you making a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, a cup of sha, a cup of champagne, a cup of wine, whatever.
Yeah.
Or get a bar of chocolate, or probably
Mhm.
anything that you enjoy. Just sit for 15 to 20 minutes. Do nothing.
Yes.
Do nothing. But because we are so used to doing this, doing that, and the only time we tend to rest is when we are in bed. But before we even sleep, we are thinking of what will I. So then we get in bed and we take like 2, 3 hours before we fall asleep. And within 3, 4 hours, we are to wake up. So then we deprive ourselves of sleep. Make a
Yes.
routine. Give yourself time that
Yeah.
if you are going to bed 10 o'clock, let that be your time. Ensure the children are in bed earlier. You do whatever you need to do. And when you're about to go to sleep, don't just take yourself from being very busy and plunk yourself on the bed. Have
Mm.
a cooling time or a calm down time, whether it's
Yeah.
30 minutes, probably you listen to some cool music or whatever. People have different things. For me, I listen to many different, like YouTube meditation, calm, cool music, and things like that, so that your brain, that one, you are training your brain that you are about to go to sleep. You are calming down to go to sleep. And if you
Yeah.
do that over time, your brain or your mind becomes used to that. Because,
Yeah.
like now, I've done it so long. If I'm going to bed and I say I am waking up at 7:30, before I used to use my alarm, but for the past like 3 or 4 years, I've not used my alarm. But when it gets to 7:30, I just wake up. At
Yeah.
first, I was like, what is going on with me? I just said I would wake up at this time, and exactly that time I wake up. And then it was after that I realized that it's because I am giving the command to my mind before I
Yes.
go to sleep that I will be waking up at this particular time. So before you go to bed, have a calm down time. Do
Mm.
whatever pleases you. Avoid being on your phone, because some people just go on their phone, browse on their phone, and they fall asleep with the phone in their hands. That's not so helpful. So, like, do something that will calm you down before you fall asleep. So you wake up in the morning rejuvenated, energized, and then you carry on your day.
Yeah. And that is so true, Nelly. That winding time is so important. I did not realize when there was a, like I write in my book, there was a time where I call it my rebirth. When I was rebirthing, when I was kind of decluttering myself from the unlimiting belief, learning empowering belief, trying to educate myself, building myself confident. That moment was my learning moment. If I tell you the amount of books that I read, and it was so beautiful. But then when we start getting so busy into work and then start running, sometimes you forget that your routine, that healthy routine. But one thing I noticed that when I plunk myself in bed without my wind down time, Nelly, I tell you, I will not sleep. The type of dreams that I'll be having, the dreams that will be telling, in fact, you'll be running all in fact on type of your mind is not settled. But then I noticed that when I go into bed and I calm down, sometimes I just do either meditation if I can, or sometimes I read a book, or sometimes I listen to something calming, or maybe a meditation like on YouTube or something, I sleep. I sleep. And when you were talking about the being kind to ourselves, I think one of the things that sometimes again we learn from childhood is that for some reason I just find it joy to be walking all the time. I find it is like a joy. I feel happy. Like maybe in my subconscious mind, I think that maybe I don't know what it's doing to me. You're always constantly working, either doing something or do you know the top thing that you go down to the kitchen that I just want to go and pick a broom, and by the time you get to that kitchen, you've done like countless things that you were doing in that kitchen. Is that type of thing. And for me, what I'm learning is that I need to start telling myself stop, or start disciplining myself that if I say I'm going to do this one thing, I need to train myself and my brain to say that I'm going to do that one thing. Because if I don't do that way, Nelly, that is what burnt me out. For example, I came down yesterday, I came down in the kitchen. I just came to take a cup of tea. I wanted to come and take a cup of tea and go back upstairs. If I tell you I ended up spending like 45 minutes in that kitchen, ask me what was I doing? I will not be able to explain. But I was packing stuff, things that were not on my mind when I came down. So it's about training ourselves as parents to say, you know what, because it is that care that we're giving to ourselves. Let us not feel guilty. Nelly, I think guilt is another big one that we need to talk about. Because as parents, especially as single parents, you feel guilty for sitting quiet or for sitting still and not doing anything. You feel guilty that, oh my God, I haven't done this, I haven't done that. No, we need to learn not to feel guilty. In fact, not even feeling guilty of being a single parent. Let us even start from there. Because I think, Nelly, sometimes we feel guilty. We sit and start, oh, maybe if I should have done this, I wouldn't have ended in this way. Or you start blaming yourself. And then not just that, you start feeling guilty maybe of not doing so and so to your children. Nelly said a statement, let us learn to appreciate life. Sometimes we dream that life will be in a certain way, but it may not be in that certain way. But whatever life presents to us, how do we handle it? How do we overcome it? It is about showing resilience. And the resilience that we're demonstrating as parents, that same resilience we're teaching our children. So, like Nelly said, we need to learn to cut our coat according to our size. And Nelly also mentioned something that sometimes as single parents, we are competing unnecessarily. Maybe we see other people on social media doing one or two things, going here, wearing this, driving that, and we start feeling guilty. Why are they living that type of life when I'm not? No. Cut your coat according to your size. Learn to appreciate what you've got. Because when you start appreciating and showing gratitude, that is the same thing that you're teaching your children, to show gratitude, to accept what they have and enjoy what they have with gratitude. So I don't know, Nelly, we've talked about micro breaks. We've talked about, you've even talked about setting boundary on screen time, and you've talked about chores and commitments. So what about, there's another point where we talked about simplifying our routine where possible. Do you want to talk on that, Nelly? Simplifying our routine?
Yeah, I think for the aspect of simplifying our routines, it will go back to the breakdown, isn't it? So
Yeah.
make your routine simple. I mean, we are the ones who complicate life because life is just simple. Like my grandpa used to say, take life easy and keep
Yeah.
smiling. We overcomplicate things. So if say you wake up in the morning and you are the kind of person who has breakfast, have your breakfast. But sometimes we will wake up and say, you know what, I want to make a variety of breakfast. You make like 5 different breakfasts for children to choose from. It's not a bad thing, but then think of how it is impacting you. Are you able to cope with that constantly? If
Yeah.
it's say having different cereals, that's fine. But if you want to cook hot breakfast every single day, is that something that you will be able to? So it's just to make your program the way that you have time for yourself.
Mm,
That sometimes we have programs where, like Peggy said before, like you have 3 children, you take each child to their different extracurricular activities.
mm,
Some of those you can't manage it. However, what I would say, which is from my experience, is there a parent within that group that can support
yeah.
to explore other options? Because if you keep running here and there, here and there for such a long time, is that accumulation of stress that eventually leads to burnout. So that's where you explore your support network. So it will
Mm,
help you to simplify
mm,
your routine.
yeah.
If, say, you are invited to go to a party, it's not all invitations that you must accept. Be
Mm,
selective. That's where boundaries come in.
yes.
Because some people think that because you've been given an invitation, automatically you have to be there. No, you don't. You don't. So you have to be selective. Because if not, you keep draining yourself. And like Peggy, you talked about being involved in 3 odd meetings. Is it necessary? So ask yourself, is it necessary for you to attend all those meetings that when they say you need to attend? Is there another way you can attend the meeting, say virtually, or your request for the minutes and things like that? Sometimes it's just to make it less strenuous, especially if you have other things that you need to do. So it's just to figure out how you can make your routine to be really simple.
Mm,
But again, it's not to cut out some of the activities that you need to do. is to get them in, but then get as much support as you can. But it's not giving away your responsibility, it's
Yeah.
asking for help.
Absolutely. And asking for help and also be willing to accept help. And one
Yes.
thing that we need to know that asking for help is not a bad thing. When you're asking for help, it doesn't mean you're vulnerable. It doesn't mean, well, you may be vulnerable, but it doesn't mean you're weak or it doesn't mean you're incapable, right? So asking for help, there's sometimes, and asking for help again is very important. Who do you ask that help from? Rather than go asking help from anybody that you may not get the right help, find the right people. If you do not have professionals that you can ask help from them, you may have people within certain networks who are of authority that you think that if you approach them, they may help you. Or even people among your own circle and your family whom you know that they can resonate with you and they can support you without judging you. So it's about being selective who you ask for help, for help from. We talked about you also need to, another strategy is about learning to connect with the activities that bring you joy. Like Nelly mentioned, when we have children, we think that everything that surrounds us is our children. We will dance around them, we sing around them, we sleep around them, we do everything around them. But what about us? We need to know that we cannot give an empty cup. We need to have our cup filled with the right stuff before we can be able to give something to our children. I always say, let the thing that flows out of us be flows onto our children. Is it love that you want to love your children? Learn to love yourself first. Is it respect that you want your children to respect you? Learn to respect yourself first. What is it that you want to give, pour out to your children? Pour that thing onto yourself first. Learn to treat yourself first. If you used to go out to hang out, like we say, sometimes there is nothing bad for you to just say, you know what, kid, I'm going out today. I'm taking myself out for a date. Just go somewhere, maybe in a tea shop, have a tea, just sit somewhere, have maybe something nice, just and just relax your brain, come out from the environment. There's sometimes as well, maybe just come out of the environment from your house. There are some people, women that I've seen 24/7 they're in their homes, apart from go dropping this when they drop the kid in school, they come back home. From home, maybe they go to the supermarket or shopping, they come back home. Sometimes take yourself out of that environment. Go somewhere, go to the park, go somewhere just for fresh air, experience something different, explore something different. And one thing that I will let us know is that our kids want the best for us as well. They do want to see us happy. Because sometimes we feel that, oh no, maybe if I do this, my kids. No. Sometimes your kids they will get to a point where they say, Mom, just go. Mom, go and my children always tell you, Mom, go and do you. I did not understand. They used to say, go and do you. They say,
Yeah.
go and do you. I have to ask her, what do you mean by let me go and do me? They say, just go and do what you love. Go and do what you enjoy doing. Go and do you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I
yeah.
think thank you so much, Peggy, for those powerful points. I think this will be an entirely whole session. We'll be
Yes.
talking about strategies because, like you said, I totally agree.
Yes.
There are some parents who are just stuck at home. And not
Yes.
only that, we limit ourselves, not wanting to try new things,
Yes.
regardless of where we find ourselves, and realize that we really struggle. So that will be a different
Yeah.
session on its own. I know we've gone far above the
Yeah.
time.
Above time. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll
So
just
just to
wrap up
yeah.
now.
Yeah, so just to wrap up the points that we talk about, Nelly, on the practical
Yeah.
strategies to overcome, we talk about self-care that can actually help us. We talk about micro breaks during the day. These are some of the things that we can do. Take 2 or 5 minutes of stillness or silence every day, or a number of times in the day. We talk about setting boundaries on screen time. We talk about your setting boundaries around your chores and commitment. We've talked about ask for help and also be willing to accept help without guilt. We talked about simplifying routine where possible. reconnect with activities that bring you joy. So these are some of the strategies that you can use to overcome burnout. So again, we would talk about, maybe you can, up from the strategies that we've listed or we've explained, maybe you can choose one of them, to try this week to see how it works for you. As Jackie said, Chancing Unique said, this topic of burnout, especially among single mothers, is a topic that should be talked on extensively, especially in communities that harbor single mothers. And that is so right. That is so right. And like Nelly, like you said, we're going to talk about this again, the strategies extensively, because I think that this is a area where most parents will benefit, not just single mothers, parents as a whole will benefit from it. So Nelly, I don't know whether you want to say something before we round up.
I just want to thank everyone for watching. And this is the first session in this series. And we are really pleased because when we come with this conversation, some of the things, some of our experiences come really raw because we don't rehearse. We just come and we talk about it because we know we are learning and we are up for learning. And we will be looking forward. So thank you so much for watching. And if you have any comments, please express yourself in the comments and we'll get back to you. And we will have the next session in 2 weeks. So we will send out reminders.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nelly. And thank you so much, our viewers, for watching. Thank you for your comments, those that commented, those that are going to watch later. Leave your comment, ask any questions. We are going to respond to them. And for anybody who you think you're struggling with burnout, maybe it's gotten to a point where you really need help, Nelly is there. Nelly will help you with that. So you can contact Nelly. Nelly, I'm sure Nelly you can see contact Nelly through her platform or something. Nelly, you have your contact details there that they can contact you, So so thank you so much, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time. And if there's any topic that you want us to talk about, please drop it in the comment section, and me and Nelly will look at it and then we'll talk about it. Stay blessed. Take care of yourself. Fill your cup with the right stuff. Don't feel guilty. Know that you're doing an amazing job as a parent. Oh, Nelly has got, this is mine. Know you're doing an amazing job as a parent. Let nobody make you feel otherwise. Let nobody talk you down. Let nobody make you feel like you're a crap. You are doing a fantastic job and your children are counting on you. And trust me, you're going to raise up confident, resilient, beautiful, intelligent, successful children. But before you do that, pour into yourself and have a nice time. Bye-bye. We love you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
That was a good summary.
Guys, so